Hi, it's Ricky of Moshville Times here once again. Now, tonight I'm delighted to welcome back Edinburgh-based, dirty, rotten, disgusting, riff-driven metal band Dog Tired. I feel like I'm on a chat show and things like that because they seem to be my regular guests every week. So, yeah, again, we've got guitarist Luke and we've got drummer Keith. So how the devil are you two guys doing?
Very good indeed. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty chilled out, mate. Pretty chilled out. Exciting times, exciting times. I'm always delighted to talk to you guys because it's always a good interview because me and you, Keith, get to take the mickey of Luke, which he takes it well. He takes it well. And that's the rumours in the street as well. But anyway, yeah.
Just because I'm no drinking the cans.
Yeah.
It's great to see you guys again. I know this is going to be a good laugh. So the last time we spoke in November, December time, you had stated that you had everything with the album, everything to do with the album was completed the day before. So 6 months later then, Dog Tired are now ready to unleash their fifth album entitled The Red Verse. So how does it feel to finally have it ready for launch in a couple of weeks after all the blood, sweat and tears that you guys have put into it?
Fucking great.
Class. Yeah, it's fucking class, man. Definitely 6 months ago when I said, it's all in the can, it's already. That was clearly a fucking lie.
Bullshit, like utter bullshit.
It's fucking. It was saying to Keith actually, the weekend there. It's like I spent 3 years writing this and then recording it, and you always feel like it's miles away. The launch is miles away, and it's actually on the 3rd of June, which is fucking round the corner, man. So it's exciting times. And also the tour snuck up on us as well. That in 2 days we head to France and start fucking leathering people all these new songs, which is amazing.
See, this is what annoys me because I ask one simple question and you've answered half a dozen of my questions already.
I'll just repeat them.
So how's it for you, Keith, to get it out, man?
Absolutely amazing, to be honest. With just after we spoke to you, it probably still wasn't at the stage we wanted it to be, and there was a stage in the process where we just got the sound and it just clicked. There was one change that we made and I was like, that album sounds amazing now. And ever since that time I've definitely been a hell of a lot more relaxed, just because when you're like, this isn't right, this isn't how we want it to go out and things like that. But yeah, no, it's sounding awesome, and so far the response to the song that we've released, Eyes of the Divine, has been amazing. That video has just hit 10k views and it's just done really well. Everyone that's spoken to us about it has been super chuffed with how it sounds, and I think there's people been contacting Jamie immediately, just being like, oh yeah, do you want to record my band? Which is always a good sign.
It's good when you're sitting on an album that we've heard it a million times, obviously. So we were just before you release anything of it, just before we released Eyes, we were like, is this fucking shit? Because we've been sitting on this for ages. You always think that about your albums. And then it's nice to see the reaction, a few gigs we've been at, where people not just being like, oh, cool song, going out their way to run and grab you and be like, that fucking riff, man. You know what I mean? We're doing something right. That's cool. If folk are saying
to be fair, they only grab you because nobody recognises me.
Oh, yeah. Indiscriminate, bald drummer.
Everyone comes up to get things signed and that goes through the whole band and then gets to me and it's just ignores me and walks away.
That's a shame. That's a shame. I'll edit that out, Keith. Don't you worry about it. But was it so? I take it wasn't something you said about a wee delay. It wasn't anything to do with the artwork or the mastering or the mixing or anything like that. It was just a last wee minor tweak that you wanted to change.
It was just, there's no point in rushing something out that we're not 100% happy with, and it took just a little bit longer than initially expected, and these things happen. I think Jamie's went through three haircuts and a broken leg whilst this has happened. You know what I mean? So loads of just different stuff kind of came into the fold, but it wasn't a case of oh God, we're behind or anything like that. This was always our plan to release it now. And I'm glad that we just had that time to recoup. You track it all, then you sit in it, and we sat on it for about maybe a month or 5 weeks of that, and that's probably the best thing we could have done, because then you listen to loads of other stuff, and you're far enough removed from it that when you go back and listen to it, you're like, change this, and this, and it'll be amazing. Kind of thing.
So who was it that came back then to say, do you know something? I think we can tweak it a wee bit here, or I'm not quite happy with that. Who was it that kind of brought that to the attention of everybody?
It was both me and Keith. we were just, we would.
Well, to be fair, there was a point where Barry said, "There's literally no bass in that. He's just been new steady."
New
And then Jamie being a guitarist and me being like, "Aye, no, you're right. You have been new steady to fuck." I think that's because there was one particular, as Keith was saying, there's one particular like kind of frequency or sound, just really with a distortion actually in the guitars that we just had to kind of get right. And it was almost, we were kind of trying to figure out other things, or maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And we're like, actually, it's just a distortion. We just did a minor tweak on that. And then suddenly everything connected. And it was like, it's like an absolute unit now. So
the actual change was crazy. Like that one little thing, it just immediately became like an album. It just like that was it. Whereas if we'd been under a pressured release schedule, it could have been released that way that we had it 6 months ago when we were speaking to you, or however long ago that was. When we could have released it and then not been happy with it now. Whereas I think it's exactly what we were wanting.
To be fair, you didn't lie to us because you said in November, December it'll be out in the summer. So you're true to your word.
We're still to release.
There we go. We didn't want to be like, oh, just rush it out and get it sorted and get this all out, because regardless, that's with you for the rest of your life, and that's you're hopefully going to write something that's timeless and folk can listen to again and again. So what's the point, for the sake of like 6 months rushing it out? Just release something that you're categorically happy with, and stay. Even though this was probably one of the most difficult albums to get together, it's the fucking best that we've done so far, and it's like definitely.
It was also great to see the way it came together. Like once we'd got the sort of sound and stuff, and then we started getting the artwork from Laura, and then we also like seeing the videos coming together and everything like that Alan's doing, and everything looked exactly how we wanted it to be. And it's not often you get that. Normally you get like a version of what you were wanting, but not the exact thing that you were looking for. Whereas I think this is dead on.
Yeah, and that's like audio wise and visually, like anything that's came out with this album's just been like. I mean, I do think Laura can read minds, even with the tracks, because that's twice she's done that. That she'll come up with a design and be like, "Oh, maybe something like this." I'm like, "What do you mean something like that?" That's it. That's the front cover. That's
gives us like a draft and that's it.
Yeah, done.
Do you know something? You've answered all my questions, so thanks very much for that as the interview. But I'm going to ask a very, very simple question. You titled the album The Red Verse. Why? Or did you have like 8 or 10 titles, or as soon as you wrote The Red Verse, that is it? Or how did that come about?
We've done this loads. I mean, we still do it. Like I write all the lyrics, but when it comes to like loads of ideas, it would just be like shouting ideas at practice. And loads of times, Keith came up with song names and came up with just like a cool saying or like a cool title. And it's Keith came up with The Red Verse. He was like, we'll be calling it The Red Verse. And that was meant to be a song. And I was like, we'll call it the fucking album The Red Verse. That's a great name. Like, it's just like, and we knew it wanted to be, this one had the red vibe. But we thought that just like, it sums it up. And then my mind went away like full on and just started coming up with the lyrics and the kind of concept of The Red Verse. That was the first song I wrote lyrics for. So they all kind of just clicked into place after that. And it's really loosely a concept album. I love the idea of a concept album, but this is loosely based.
Are you going to write about swords and dragons and things? Is that what
I already do.
Yeah, to be fair, I think The Red Verse was, again, it quite often happens, was misheard, because I'm sure that you came out of the practice room, said something, and I said, did you say The Red Verse? And you're like, no. Like, all right, well, that's a fucking good title. That happened where it came from the sun and everything as well. But
the sun. That was a band that we were watching.
He was probably calling you a nurse. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think probably. But yeah, like the way that I think of The Red Verse is kind of like you've got like a weird otherworldly Bible that's fucked, and then you've got the last chapter that's written in blood or written into someone's skin, like that kind of thing. Like Clive Barker's Books of Blood, like that, proper etched into someone. That's the way I think of it, like the final verse that's like evil. Yeah. Like the Necronomicon, basically.
Keith, you're going to hell, mate. You're going to hell. You're going to
hell. 100%. I mean, we recorded all the album with the Necronomicon in the fucking room as well. So I got a fake Necronomicon. I was like, yes, like straight like from the one from the Evil Dead, again, like bound in skin, or it looks like it and that. So I took that into the jam room when we were recording, and pretty much it is loosely based on the kind of just all the stuff about the Necronomicon and all that. So, but imagine that being recited by some mad hell priest on Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was reading
also
Logan Clive
Astro,
Barker when I fucking wrote all the lyrics and that. I was like, yeah, I'm into that total, like, as you said, that you were talking about swords and dragons, and it's like, not far off, man. I love like absolute nonsense, like fantasy, like in sci-fi lyrics.
It's pretty much cosmic.
That's like evil as well. Because
cosmic horror.
Cosmic horror, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because it's like that stuff's fun to sing about, and it's like it kind of just rolls off the page. Yeah. And I totally get bands and love bands as well that sing about like, you know, political stuff, or like, you know, things that are like more closer to home, about like, you know, horrific things happening to humanity and stuff like that. That has its place, but I think that's almost pretty exhausting to be singing about that every gig. You know what I mean? Every gig must just be a bit like, fucking hell, I'd rather sing about fucking dragons.
Cool, thanks for that, guys. But this is a question that I know the answer to already, but if you can tell our listeners and viewers, for those that are eagerly awaiting the album, how would you say the Red Verse compares to your early material, and in particular, the Electric Abyss? And do you think you found the sound that you've been looking for with this new material?
I think that the Red Verse is almost like the evil brother of the Electric Abyss. And the Electric Abyss was fairly evil anyway, with songs like Flesh Church and stuff like that. But the Red Verse has just got a much more ominous and visceral, like a horrible vibe behind it, kind of thing. And I think, like, sound-wise, yeah, I think we've definitely hit that. The fucking drum kit's loud as shit, so I'm happy. And the guitars sound absolutely monstrous. The vocals both together just sound like an absolute force, like a giant evil man.
on top of a mountain with a beard.
Yeah, exactly.
Carrying a sword.
Yeah.
A sword, yeah, totally. I agree with Keith on that. I think we definitely kind of found our sound and what we were all about, and like it came from the sun, but it was recorded like to what we wanted in the Electric Abyss, and I think we were like that was great.
Yeah.
But I think this album's just more maybe to the point and just vicious. It's like proper visceral.
Yeah.
And it's just walled like 10 absolute, like, just in different ways, like brutal songs. But also really it's got lots more dynamics on this as well.
Yeah.
But when it goes
that
heavy,
doesn't mean clean singing or any of that.
Yeah. Totally.
Dynamics within really heavy.
The ballads when we start making money and sell out.
Well, I actually thought Pillars, that's it, isn't it? The first minute and a half, 2 minutes of that, I was like, is this a freaking ballad, by the way? They invited me on. It is a ballad.
It's an instrumental. So
Aye, but then the chugging riffs of the guitar came in. But yeah, so it's the second instrumental. But what do you think's brought the evilness, as you say? Like, is it just you need to open the door and you see the state of the world, and you just read the news and the documentaries and stuff like that? What's made this more darker, do you think?
I think it's a case of, like, if you think how, as I said again, visceral the riffs and the kind of connection to the drums are, which are always really tight, because you can just proper zoom in. But that was written during COVID. That was like that horrific time that pretty much, I remember that period of people were allowed to go to their work, but you weren't allowed to do absolutely anything else in your life, kind of thing. So I was just making up riffs, and then as soon as me and Keith were legally allowed to be in the same room together, we just battered away at it. And I'm guessing some of that like excitement, as well as like absolute rage at what was going on, must have came out. But we were writing songs at a pace that was, I mean, some of them we wrote in a practice. Like, so if you think of The Wall and you think of Fractured, like jumped about different kind of like orders, but we essentially wrote them in a jam. And then we would record it and go, right, next song. And then forget how to play them, and then have to relearn them. But like loads of it was just, it wasn't a case of me coming up with all the arrangements and ideas, which every guitarist does at some point, or some songs are written like that. This was really not like that. It was a case of I would have 3 riffs. I had no idea how they were going to fit together, or even end up, and we would just go in the jam and just like essentially bounce ideas off each other consistently that day, till we came up with something that was just really raw. And we would just kind of keep that rawness rather than try and chip away what was cool about it in the first place. That makes sense.
Yeah. So the riff meister that you are, I imagine you've got a hell of a lot of stored riffs. was all this brand new material? Did you actually use any spare material from Electric Abyss, or even older than that, or is this all brand new stuff?
Fuck, that's a mental question.
That's quite a good question, because normally you do use riffs from previous albums and that.
Oh man, yeah, I've been like stealing riffs that never really existed in our old band fucking 20 years ago. And
yeah, dregs have turned up and like,
and then we would just point at people and be like, that was a dregs riff. But so I'm just going through them. So Fracture, Eyes, Sever, everything's brand new, and then Mars is brand new. The Wall was completely brand new. In fact, the only ones I kind of stole, the only part I kind of had before was probably on Pillars. So the intro to Pillars, that kind of normal guitar part, that the part that you thought was boring as fuck, Ricky, that bit. I had that.
I thought you were going to start singing "Every Rose Has Its Thorn" or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's like I had like a tiniest little bit of that, and that had just been kicking about as a doodle for years and years. And then there's one riff in Pillars that's like halfway through that was actually meant to be in Hunter's Moon, but there was just too many riffs to fit in. So I was like, I'll just bring the one from the other instrumental and put it in just the second instrumental. But everything else is brand new, just made up for this album.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that. But I was worried how you were going to top the Electric Abyss, because what was especially pleasing was the quality of the songwriting of that album. But now that Eyes of the Divine has been released, my worries have been quashed. So what would you say brought this record to the next level? Did you manage to get together more? I don't know. What brought it to the next level, do you think? Do you just think that you've progressed as musicians, or do you think it was when you were in lockdown, you were listening to different forms of music? What was it?
What are you going to go for it?
Well, to be honest, it's quite a difficult question to answer as well, because I think a lot of it is obviously just your tastes sort of developing over the time. Like we're one of those bands that's constantly got heavier. Yeah. Like quite often a band, when like they're going further in their career, they tend to get lighter. It's just a known thing that tends to happen. Whereas we've always just got heavier, just because our tastes get heavier. You always use like influence that you're seeing around you, and like kind of bleed that into your song, into your songs anyway. Yeah. So like quite a lot of the sort of modern metal, I'm not keen on like a lot of stuff, but some of it I'm like, that's amazing. That sort of thing should definitely be involved in this, and it's really, really, really cool. So we've kind of grabbed a lot of sort of newer stuff, put that into it, whilst also just keeping its riffs.
Tired sound.
Like a lot of stuff nowadays is quite soundscapey, and it's not based around songs. It's more like they have a sound as a band or an album, and that's just how it sounds, and you just listen through it as like a
piece,
one thing, basically. Yeah. And if you were to hear a song of it, you might not know which song it is and things like that. Whereas that seems to be kind of normal for everyone, and it's still cool. Like that's a really good way to do it. Yeah. But we like having songs, like even if it can still be really heavy and have hooks. Like you can still be like, oh, that's that bit. Like, oh, there's that bit. There's that chorus. Like that I remember, without it being in the territory where you starts like proper singing and all that stuff. But
I mean, I love a fucking chorus. I love a hook.
Yeah. So
that hook could be in the riff, or it could be in just the vocals. But it's like vocals can just be another riff that's got a hook. So it's got its place, just being like, you know, like sheerly brutal all the way through. And I think our choruses are like brutal but they've just got a hook to them as well. And you can be really like quite tricky with that as well. You can like come up with like some mad ideas that will take folk a few listens to actually understand what's going on, and then they'll be like, "Oh, that's a hook."
And that's definitely like strapping influence.
Totally.
With strapping your lads, sometimes you listen to their tunes like 6 times or whatever, then you're like, "Oh, that's what they're doing."
that was they were the first band, and I think we're, especially in this album, we're like heavily influenced by like Strapping Your Lad at points. And I remember being 16 and getting just self-titled Strapping, maybe 15, and getting Strapping Your Lad self-titled, and then listening to it and being like, I don't know what's fucking going on, but I'll listen to it again because that was class. But then the more you listen to it, there's the first album that through like a bunch of listens, I became part of it. You know what I mean? I loved it.
It's kind of like Alien, the Strapping album. That's so intense that when you first listen to it, you don't even know what's going on. And then the more you listen to it, the more you start to see the riffs and the structure, and then you end up knowing it really well. But
But with you, Keith, because I know Luke dog tires his band because he's too lazy to do anything else. But with you playing drums and hammer, Is it difficult for you to keep dog tired out of hammer and hammer influences outside of dog tired, or do you combine them both?
To be honest, I think it's actually the opposite because I'm a drummer. Rather than like guitar, if you're taking riffs, the bands can end up sounding similar. Whereas, like, if I've got a drum beat that I learn in hammer, I'll almost always add it into dog tired. If I've got a drum beat I learn in dog tired, I'll almost always add it into hammer because it's going to end up sounding completely different depending on what riffs are playing.
Yeah.
So, like, hammer's a different enough sound from dog tired that if I use the drum beats or whatever I'm doing in dog tired in it, it'll sound cool and it'll sound completely different. So it's actually kind of benefited me because I learned things through both of them. The only thing is I've obviously got no free time and it's shite. But it's
tough at the top, guys. Tough at the top. So thanks very much for that, guys. But as I talked about Eyes of the Divine there, what a video that is. And as you said earlier, it's reached over 10,000 already. I think it was is it a week ago it's been released?
12 days, man. 10,000 views in 12 days, I think.
Yeah, I think it's been 12 days, yeah.
Yeah, can't argue with that, man. But the question has to be the question has to be asked. How did you sneak into a church during the night to record this?
I'll let Luke tell you this.
It was during the day. It was January. So where I live, my next door neighbour's Jesus. There's a church there, but the church, obviously, Christianity is going down the drain like a jobby. So it got sold, and it got sold to this amazing guy called Craig, who runs like this kind of mountaineering climbing place. But he's kitted out the church inside, so it's like mountaineering rescue and all that, and they climb over the top. So he's my neighbour, so I was just kind of having a chat with him. He's like, come in and see what we've done with the place. So he just kept the shell of the church and he's got the kind of climbing apparatus on the roof. And I'm standing there in a Slayer jacket going, you know what? This would be cool for a video. And then he was like, well, what? Like, you're in a metal band, I'm guessing, by the Slayer jacket. I was like, aye. And then he was like, yeah, go for it. So he was really sound. The team were brilliant. I'll give them the shout. It's called SG Access Solutions. Cool. They're brilliant. And you know, they were just kind of like an idea of like giving us the key and going, just fire away, fill your socks, have a great time. And that's what we did. But it's funny, if you see us when we're playing, part of the shot at the end, I'm screaming like Eyes of the Divine, and you can just see like smoke like coming off my face and smoke coming off my breath. It's because it was so fucking cold. It was like January, it was snow outside. Just pretty much like rushing Alan to be like, just do another take because it's so bloody cold.
I was going to ask that actually. I take it you didn't do it in one take. You had to do it like 7, 8, 9, 10 times.
Oh,
yeah, man, we were in there for the fair whack, like, so it was maybe like maybe 12 till 5 or something like that. That was when we were actually jamming, and obviously Keith's just playing the full kit. There's no like dampeners or anything like that in the kit, so it's just full power. It
was the loudest thing on the planet because obviously churches are designed for that, for the acoustics. So when I was playing the snare drum, it was like a fucking gun.
I've went in to grab something for the house because, as I said, I'm like right next door. So I've just popped in, said all right to the dog, met my wife, and was like saying, "Oh, is it quite loud?" And she's like, "Oh, aye." She was like, "No, I know what part of the song you're at." From
the kitchen. Yeah, the weird thing is,
the neighbours around here are great. They're like really, apparently, like some of them were like trying to get a better earshot of it by standing on a specific step and that. And they were like, "Man, that wow." Man. It was like kind of like the whole area around here was like behind us. They were like, "Yeah, go for it." So. Yeah,
the only person that commented on it at all, we were expecting it to be bad when it wasn't. There was a woman that ran up to us after it, and then she was like, we thought she was probably going to complain or something about the noise or something, and she was like, "Oh, I've got a blog that I do on YouTube or like online," and she's like, and I was looking for a new jingle, and I heard that through the wall, and I was like, "That's what I want."
To be fair, Keith, we still have to write that jingle. I forgot about that.
I know we do.
We should just write like pretty much you blast beating, but just shouting Wayne's World or some shit over it.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I actually thought you were going to be employed as a church band, and everybody's in the pews going like that and clapping along to it and stuff like that. But
I'll be amazing. See, the next
every Sunday you're going to be there.
The next video should be in a church, and it should be one of those, like, you know, the crazy American footage you see of people having the awakening and doing the. That's what we should do, but just with riffs. Like.
Yeah.
One of the best names that I've ever came across is a band called Evangelist. It's just absolutely, what a name for a band. But anyway,
that is a good name for a band.
Yeah. But again, what I liked about it was the video, especially the start. It was similar to Feast because if my memory serves me right, the Feast you started off with the grey sky, and then with Eyes of the Divine, it's the red. And I went,
well noticed.
Well,
yeah,
because it's the same sky.
Yeah, so we sat with Alan and we were like, we need an intro. So we had like a still footage of the church, and we're like, remember that cloud, the fast moving clouds you had at the start of Feast? And that took Alan ages to. Still feel bad about that. He sat up there with like the camera up there for like a good 3 hours and kind of filmed those clouds so he could speed it up. Wow. But we did that. We reversed it and turned it back. So well spotted. That's the same sky.
I hope you gave him a couple of beers once you had done it.
Which one? Don't get anything. He's done an absolute corker with that video. Like, it's amazing. He's also filmed another one for us that'll be coming out soonish. But Alan Swan is definitely the guy to go to for music videos. Like, he's done.
I think I've sent you my bloody questions before I've sent you before this bloody interview, because you've just answered my next question. I said I love the song and I love the wee bits of orchestration at the beginning again. There's quite a good few sequences like this on that album. But is that going to conclude the more visual side of the album, or do you have another couple of video releases to coincide with the album release in June?
So we have another video dropping. Hot off the press. There's another video dropping. Don't know the exact date because I don't want to say a date and then I fuck it up and it's the wrong date. But it will be roughly a week before the album launch. So
nice.
And it's a completely different type of video. Mm-hmm. And we watched the kind of final proofing of it yesterday from Alan. Again, he's just one of these guys that just has exactly what's in my head. That's what it is. That's what he's managed to capture that again.
Was it one of the times that you were pissed these ideas come into your head?
Probably, but it was I definitely wanted this one to just be like, if we're going to release two videos that are quite close together, I wanted them to be visually completely different.
Yeah.
And this one's more probably the evilest thing we've ever done. Like, it just looks heavy metal as fuck. It's probably the best way to put it. Like,
is your next album going to be black metal or something? You're going in that direction.
We'll have to be heavier than that. Just again, everything's in drop G. But I'm really excited to release it because I think it is drastically different, as I said before. But I'll just drop it. It's for the song Mars. Mars is coming out as an intro. Not an intro, sorry. It's got the intro of Mars in it. Rather than like the Eyes of the Divine, I'd added some extra stuff to the intro and the outro that aren't actually on the album. This will just be Mars, which has got the big kind of classic intro.
So is that yourself, Luke, that does the keyboards?
Yeah, this really does all the synth and stuff like that. I knew it needed something at the start of the Eyes video, so that's why I was like, let's just get the strings out so it makes it even more ridiculous at the start. So it's almost like matching the words Amen at the start, and you'd be like, boom, then just leather them with the blast beats. Like,
Cool. But talking of the visual side, the cover art for the Red Verse is immense. Now, I already know the answer to this, but what if you tell everyone who done it for you? What concept did you give the person, and did you give them the album the lyrics and say, this is what I want, or how did it happen?
So it was Laura Gilchrist who did our front cover for the Red Verse. Same person who did The Electric Abyss. She's a singer. King Witch, probably one of the best human beings I have ever seen stand up and sing into a microphone. Absolutely amazing singer. But amazing art as well. And it was very similar to The Electric Abyss. That I was in a pub, we were steaming, and I was like, I've got the idea for the front cover. I don't know if Keith, did we have the title The Red Verse then?
I think we did, and I think that we'd actually spoken about it before, but only to a degree. And I remember Chris actually painted just a sort of rough idea of something that from what he thought that would sound like the singer Chris, from what we were talking about, kind of thing. And he ended up painting, I think he did like the sort of circle. And then he wasn't that happy with his painting and stuff like that, and he ended up changing it. And I was like, the one that you had before was actually really cool, like that idea. But obviously then we'd spoken about the sort of general concept in that, because Luke's always kind of had that in his head anyway. And then
that image of like, imagine Stonehenge on Mars.
Yeah,
Best
yeah.
way to put it. Stonehenge on Mars. Like I was reading like loads of Clive Barker at the time to like kind of come up with the lyrics. I wrote them all. In like 5 weeks because I was like, this has no lyrics, so I just wrote them all, which is quite cool because they're all really closely linked. But Stonehenge on Mars, there was this book, like one of the short stories in the Books of Blood, and it's about a guy who had everything in the world, but it felt like he had fallen out of love with God, so he just created hell on Earth. And like created this massive like chamber of like people getting tortured and dying and all this stuff. And the whole time he's like wondering why God, because the idea is going to try and smite God so God would see him again. And then God never showed, and he was raging, and then just dies in his chamber years later. But he always felt like someone was behind his shoulder, peering over him, or anytime he would turn around, the guy disappeared. So it turned out like, by the end, the devil was there. He was just being a sleek at fuck.
I would
So
maybe
that concept, it was just so gory and evil that I was like, take that, make it Stonehenge, put it on Mars, and there's the Leviathan coming to grace this guy on Mars. Like.
I would maybe seek therapy about these ideas and thoughts that are in your head. But what does worry me though is how the hell you're going to top it for the next album. We'll worry about that in the next album in 3 years' time.
People mishear something. You'll mishear something. I'll be like, that's a cool idea, and then I'll just write an album. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually quite like we shouldn't be worrying about that now, considering we've not even brought it out yet. But it does in my mind. I'm like, what do we do after this? Yeah. It does have a bit of a
but you know what? That's exactly what you said after Electric Abyss.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I remember feeling that, going, "This is it. This is. I'm so happy with this." And I was like, "How are we going to top it?" And I think Keith, I said it about the album before as well, man. Like, it's a good way to be, that you're always trying to level up, I suppose, as a band, and like do something that you're really proud of. And with this one, I think it's like.
I know this wouldn't happen, but if the band was to stop tomorrow, what an album that you've ended with. You'd be happy the way things have gone,
And that's there. I'm sure I said this before, but that's there forever. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's something that you've done and you've left for everyone else.
I was so happy when we got that, like, it all sorted and we got the sound sorted to exactly what we wanted, because I was just like, now if I die, this will still exist. Like, it's already there. And I can be like, yes, in future, if we all fall apart and are not in a band, someone will find that way down the line in the future and be like, that was over. That's a belter.
Well, if you die, Keith, I'm sure Luke will write a song about it. So,
and get a new drummer that's better.
I already said I don't write about feelings. I only write about dragons and swords. So I'm sorry. But it is an absolute melter, and I'm so excited to finally release it and show it to people. It was a task getting it together, but I think like any good album it is, it's always a task to get it together and do all this stuff, all this type
especially
of
when you do it by yourselves. You're like a kind of DIY band. You don't have a record label and the marketing department to do it for you.
Well, I mean, we've got a bit of marketing and stuff like that now, which is cool. We've got Duncan Mountain, who's amazing as a human being to have on board and into the Dog Tired crew and that. So we've got trusted people that are there.
Imperative PR as well have been helping out.
Imperative PR has been brilliant. Cool. And it's like, it's just making, like, it's obviously such a precious thing to us, like Dog Tired to us, that it's like we'll let people in that we know and we trust, kind of thing. So we've got a good crew behind us, and it's great to have. Obviously, Laura and Jamie knows exactly what we want to sound like, and he's such a patient dude and just knows his shit. We've got Laura, who's just can read minds and just like create amazing front covers, but it's also having Alan kind of like, he's so integral to like everything that we release in like videos or posters or tour posters and stuff like that. He just listens to you of what you're after and what you're wanting, and he's got like an unbelievable skill set just to get that done and to a really high standard. So it's like, it's really important to have him as part of it as well.
Yeah, he's basically like the fifth member.
Yeah,
and then the fifth member is along with also Mark, who does merch and comes around with us all the time, because he just feels like a member of Dog Tired.
That's still small, and that's still like, I suppose, don't want to sound like Metallica, but the family. I mean, it's like it is important to have these like key folk that are with us as well, that can like just help.
Absolutely,
such a stonking album, like.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going to say. Is like. Sorry, I'm interrupting. You've got your bloody questions here, eh?
No, it's all right. On you go.
I'm really excited like when the day comes to release, and then suddenly it's like all this stuff that me and Keith and Chris and Barry have been working on for like 4 years and getting this to this specific point. Suddenly it's not ours anymore. You just release it and it's everyone else's, and you can, there's that breath of fresh air and go, well, it's done. And there's no going back, there's no tweaking. I know, Keith, we're not tweaking anything now, and it's all getting pressed and stuff, but that's like a release that you're just like, right, fucking here you go.
It also means that we're not only showing people it in their kitchen on a shit speaker when they're sleeping at 6 in the morning.
Apologies to all the pals that have fucking listened to.
I think they've heard
They listened to like the phone recordings, then the fucking demo, then the about 5 different versions of this album, and they weren't allowed to leave.
Talking about phone recordings, then, Keith, is Luke the type of guy that would send you a riff at 4 o'clock in the morning? To
be honest, no, really. Like, because we tend to just have it where it'll be at jam that he shows us riffs and things like that. We do phone recordings, but it's more of a sort of, it's more the usual sort of way that we do is we just record us playing it in the room, and then we're just like less likely to forget it. So we'll get like a full song together, record it on a phone, and then have that there, and then we start playing that to people in kitchens.
Have you ever looked at your phone saying, "Oh, he's at it again. Here we go again. He's 6."
No, because I know that he sits and goes like away in his head, like total away with it, and sitting writing riffs, like probably steaming on his own in that room for hours and hours and hours on end and records them. But usually I'll end up hearing them from jam rather than it being.
And then he'll probably wake up in the morning saying, "Did I actually write that?
Was that me?" Some Fair Whack of the rest were written when I was absolutely loaded. That's true. Because it was COVID, and what else were you going to do?
To be fair, when I see you there, I thought you were actually playing a Yazoo, but it's your thingy.
No, that's my fucking behind me. I always like to play riffs.
I was wondering
next interview, Ricky. I
wonder if the Yazoo was going to be in the album. But is there anything about the way that you recorded the red verse that you did differently than Electric Abyss, or do you think you've just got the formula now that you're happy with and will stick to for now?
Well, we recorded the entirety of it out of tune, so that was different, and then it needed to be redone.
Yeah, so like we did, the process is like me and Keith will get in the room and we'll record. No clicks and that. We just record to each other and we bash on. And then I recorded all the guitars, triple tracked them, and then found out that the guitar was warped and the wood was out of fuck, and just re-recorded all the guitars.
I think it
sounds better. Actually, the second run through, I was like, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change that. I'm so glad I did, because I'm just like, man, that's fucking ace. Like, that wasn't on the first take of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jamie, I think he's still got PTSD, actually. So.
Yeah. I think because I'm pretty sure that it was Dave Farrell's guitar from Hammer.
Just blaming him.
He sold it to Luke, and then Luke was using it, and it was just like he would have 3 tuners plugged in at different times, and they were all, it was like they weren't functioning. Like they just wouldn't go to it. And Jamie's like, I've never seen this before. And Dave thinks he's worked out that it's because the wood itself resonates at the note of B. So it's like, it's screwing up the tuners and all that. I'm like, I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's absolutely fucked.
Well, I sold it back to Dave. I sold it back to Dave and was like, this is a fucking piece of shit. And he immediately sold it on. So... if that guy's watching this that bought that guitar, I'm really sorry, mate.
Sorry, but not sorry.
I suppose there's another thing that was different in the last, when we recorded Electric Abyss, because Jamie hadn't built his studio, it was actually just done in our jam room, and then the vocals were done in that room that Luke's currently sitting in his house.
Yeah.
Whereas for the red verse, we did it all in Jamie's studio, which was great. Like,
that's a really amazing studio. It's like on its own building at the bottom of his garden, and it's just really kitted out. And you could tell that like Jamie just cares about that stuff so much. So even like from when we did the Electric Abyss and went to do the red verse, there's all these just new things appearing. And you're like, wow, what's this? What's this type of mic and stuff like that? So the vocals, I think, have never sounded as good as this. Has never sounded as clear as this. And we've probably spent more time on them as well, like getting it right. And we have this like process that's kind of, I suppose it's kind of a wee bit like Ozzy back in the Sabbath days and that you just do a lot of triple tracking. So I would triple track the vocals, Chris would triple track the vocals, and then we just find like a blend, and then I would just add all the extra vocals on the top and watch Jamie's hair slowly get more grayer. No, but it does sound like an absolute wall. You know what I mean? It's brilliant. And that's not the sound for every band, but that's just how we sound and we want it to sound. So
yeah, we must be a fucking nightmare as well because we don't play to a click. It's me and Luke basically jamming for the actual recording.
Yeah.
And then because of that, you're then trying to play along with a jam with me that you weren't having at that time.
Oh yeah.
Which, to be fair, you do really well.
We did actually have a note of like, you know, parts that you were dragging back and stuff. It was just
yeah. But I also like that natural feel because you don't really get it in metal anymore. It doesn't.
So many bands and producers would just be like, oh, like turn like feeling sick at the idea of us doing that, but it's just the way that we do it, and there's a natural feel to that. Like it just it's what we want to sound like, and there's natural like kind of drag backs or speed ups that you would never really notice, but it's just that's what gives it emotion. It's human beings playing instruments, but tarted up to sound like gods.
But talking about Jason, was he hard to please? He was like, look, no, that doesn't sound right. Keith, you can do better on the drums. Do it again. Chris on the vocals and stuff like that. Was he quite tough?
Jamie's like an old pal. We've been like pals with Jamie for over a decade. Like we kind of.
I would say he's like the opposite of. He's not harsh at all, but he's quite good with. See if you're having a freaking mare, like you're having a nightmare, or you're getting quite stressed about a bit or something like that. He'll tend to be like nice about it, but he'll take the piss, and it's that always. There's just a certain tone about the way that he says like. That was good, and you're like, it was shite, I'll do it again. Like that kind of you can immediately tell if it's a good take or something like that, but he's never harsh.
Banging. I always say Jamie's catchphrase in recording is definitely like, you'll play a bit or you'll sing your heart out at this bit, and you'll be like, is that what you're going for, right?
There was a Phil in Mars that I did. He was like, is that what you were trying to do?
Is that what you're going for, right?
And in that case, I was like, aye.
Okay, obviously shouting about Nameless City Sound, but I mean 100% bands of any kind of age in their career, like starting out or being bands for years, I would still recommend going to Jamie, because there's not many producers that really listen to the band as much as Jamie would. Yeah. And you pitching ideas as well, but it's never like, oh, you should do it this way. It's actually a case of like, he wants to capture what's in your head. And that's you know, you could have the most lush studio in the land, but if the producer doesn't really get you guys or understand what you're wanting to do, then what's the fucking point? You know what I mean? So.
Absolutely. Fair play, Jamie. But we're going to talk about the lyrics for a wee second then. With Chris being the vocalist of the band, the main vocalist, do you write all the lyrics, or do all members contribute to lyrics? Well, you've actually already said that you already write all the lyrics.
So but I write the lyrics for I've written the lyrics for this album and the Electric Abyss, and most of it came from The Sun. But it's not a case of, I have to write the lyrics of that. I just enjoy doing that. Like, it flows quite well. I've already the way I do it is like, I've just got all like kind of essentially like vowel explosions in my head of like what would be a cool timing or chorus, and I kind of just fit lyrics around it. And as I said before, I was like, managed to write all these lyrics within a 5-week period. They're like, still doing work in that, and then just coming back and be like, fuck, and just writing nonsense whilst watching Evil Dead kind of thing.
But how did you convey to Chris how you want the lyrics to be sang? Did you just say these are lyrics and you know that he'll do it in one take, or did you say, right, I need you to do this, I need you to do that?
So the best thing for all of us, because that is quite, to be fair to Chris, it's quite daunting being like, I've got this whole album sung, so, and it needs to be done like this. So there's no point in we've been there before where we try and tell somebody that, but you're never really going to like convey that properly when it comes to lyrics. So what we do is we just record all the demos in here. So I recorded all the vocals in here, and it was great because I would write a song and then come through and sing it, and then be like, shite, or that bit's class, I'll keep that bit, and then I'll change this. So there was lots of kind of reworking whilst I was writing them. But because they're all like roughly recorded there, I'm like, Chris, like that, and then he would come in and kind of pitch ideas and stuff like that as well. So, and then it means that by the end of the demo, he had recorded triple track in his voice as well. So we had dry run the whole album. So
But how did you look at him when Chris says, right, I think you need to change that line to this and you need to do that and that? Did you just look at him saying, you what? We're doing
rarely
what?
But it's no fair to kind of cancel out the rest of the guys because everyone kind of pitches in ideas.
Yeah.
As I said,
unfortunately,
came up with the title of the album, so that he's came up with loads of names of songs. Barry comes up with ideas as well. A lot of them are. No, I'm not. I'm sliding. I'm just to be a dick. No, he comes up with great ideas.
It's only a basis, though. He missed 2 gigs in 18 years. It's just not good enough.
That is not good enough. Yeah, that's what we keep on saying.
Sorry, Keith, you were going to say something there, mate.
I've kind of forgotten. Oh yeah, like the only thing is with our sort of input to lyrics and things like that, quite often it's unfortunately telling you the bits we don't like because we like the rest of it. So if there's one bit that I'm not that keen on, that'll be the bit that I say, and that's where you get your backup like, fuck you.
We keep up like there's definitely a love-hate relationship that most chats in practice be like, fuck you. That's a fucking you've not even heard it yet, you prick.
What do you want to be instead, like you fucking dick? Like,
and then I'll go away, and then I'll just totally change it and bring it back, and then be like singing it this new way. And Keith's like, that's cool. I'm like, I
remember arguing with for Eyes of the Divine. Because the only way that you could, like, you were hearing it in your head, it only fitted as Eyes of Divine.
Yeah,
and I was like, we can't do that.
Divine. Like.
Yeah, and I was like, we can't do that. We need to put the then, or it's just not as cool because that's in the title. And then every time that you were saying, what do you want me to be like? Eyes of the Divine. And I was like, no, I just want you to add the then.
There's absolutely no way this can fucking work, you fucking idiot.
Oh, I got a brutal slag in there, like.
Do you know it's funny when you look at that now and it's just released and everyone's like, cool, and then I'm like, of course you would add in there.
Yeah, totally. But like it's wee bits and pieces that we'll sometimes have a wee bit of a say in and things like that, and it's mostly to be like, I'm not as keen on that, but change it, and then he obviously gets annoyed because he's written a full song and the only thing you have to say is negative. But it's just because the rest of it is awesome. So you're like, that's the only bit they can maybe do with a bit of improvement.
I remember one interesting part, Keith, remember our lyrics that we actually recorded. We recorded all the guitars, but then we knew at that point we would have to go back and do some of them back again. And we're in the pub after it. I think it was after like maybe fucking 10 days in the studio or something, Keith. You had done all your drum bits. And we had just recorded the vocals for Mars. And we're sitting in the pub. And then we came up with a better chorus, just sitting drinking pints, and we're like, well, back in the morning now, eh? Fucking change that chorus. So the chorus we've got in there, just it sounds so much better. They were like, man, why did we just do that in the first place? Oh yeah, we needed a couple of pints to figure that out.
Yeah.
Do you know what's quite funny in the last 5 minutes? It's like, Luke, you were totally cool, calm, collected when you're talking about lyrics. And then Keith had to say something about lyrics, and you in your seat was like, you've got something to say about my lyrics?
What the fuck? No, brilliant. It's the best dysfunctional family to be part of. Okay, we're coming up with tunes. It's the same with riffs.
It's probably now. I mean, you guys have been together for. It's coming up for your 20-year anniversary, for fuck's sake. I can imagine that you've never even had a fist fight.
Nah, I mean, years ago, I think we fell out at a wedding. Chris,
well, me and Luke fall out all the time, but it's just while you're drunk, and then it's not like fighting.
Yeah. Nah, totally, and also I think with the riffs and that, it's like there's loads of drumming on this. Keeps like he's just ripping out some mad shit. And I remember he'd be whipping into like a specific blast. Keith Yulkin, the name of it. And I remember at the start of the writing songs, it was a case of like I just thought it was shit. I was like, what the fuck are you doing that for? And then he just kept on doing it. And then just over time, I was like, that's fucking cool.
I think it's just like, it's almost like the black metal blast. Like, it's just a blast, like that proper off time, kind of like just the fast version of the Slayer beat. But I'd never added it in before. I think I'd used it in Hammer. But I was like, there were certain bits I was like, I should put that in because it'll be cool. And then we've ended up with, I think it's in the album twice.
Well, you were very close to it in Feast on the last release, but with this, with Fracture, it was kind of more like a fast beat, whereas on Godless Carrion Pit, I was like, that's a blast beat. I was like, Keith Blakey, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was like, you're my man.
There's there's a few fucking mental bits that I think because obviously all the riffs are fucking mental anyway, but for the song that's probably got the most laid back riffs is the red verse at the start. So the starting of the red verse is quite slow. Not slow in a bad way, slow in a really ominous, nice build-up way, kind of like a Nation on Fire or something like that kind of feel.
Yeah.
And it's slow and lumbering. And then it came at the chorus and he's like, you should totally do full kicks there. And I was like, I did kicks. And then I was like, nah, like faster kicks. It was like, nah, like faster kicks. And it's ended up being these kicks that I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to play these anymore because I got to the stage where I could play them. But then I've not been playing them much since. So now I'm like, fuck.
It's in a classic jam, man. It's in a classic jam.
Well, you realise Luke's taking the mick out of you because you were taking the mick out of his lyrics. So he's like, no, play faster.
I'm definitely not taking the mick out of the lyrics because they're fucking awesome. Right?
I noticed that about the red verse as well. I noticed that about the red verse as well. Like, I'm sure it was the red verse. It was your fastest double bass. What?
Yeah. It'll be that. And it's at the slowest point in the song. It's like a slow lumbering riff and the kicks are like...
Yeah. And also, I love how there's no fill. There's no like drum fill or that.
Yeah.
It
goes and I think it's almost like a minute constant of it as well. And I've not got that sort of stamina. So like I just have to learn how to do it and just hope for the best. But also not using triggers and like it was just a full kit for recording, just like blasting it on a bass drum and hoping for the best.
Yeah. I have to say, I've listened to the album a couple of times, and I have to say, so far, the last minute and a half of Godless Carrying Pit, it just started with just the guitar, and then it was your blast beats, and then it was just the guitars and everything, and then the vocals came in. I was like, that's almost death metal.
Because
Chris almost gets to death metal vocals, almost.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's also like delivered really well. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's you got the death, intense growl that's consistent as well. But also you can just hear what you said. You know, which is like
you probably won't necessarily notice as well what parts are actually looking what's Chris, because when they sing the whole album together, so therefore there's two of them at almost all times. Yeah. And then there's little bits where it'll be one or the other, but it's like a mix of their two voices, which is weird because they just seem to have like gelled together, the two voices. It sounds mental for some of this stuff. Like, but I think we're pretty close to death metal. When Duncan was talking about like, you should definitely have like a description of your band. It was like what type of metal it is, and he was like, I want to call it death thrash, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool. But to be honest, I don't really know what we are. I think it's there's too many different influences in there. Like that, for example, that blast is technically a black metal blast, but it's not black metal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of death metal, but it's kind of not as well. But when you think of death metal, I suppose it's more kind of like Cannibal Corpse death metal where you're getting that groove in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than like more of the extreme death metal that you're getting nowadays with the like insane constant blast and stuff like that. It's not so much that side.
Yeah.
But I think we're fairly close. I think it's maybe just extreme. Like extreme metal of some form. I've always just called it metal, to be honest, but yeah, the end of Godless is definitely a nice heavy stonker.
we steal like everything we love about other bands, even if that's just like, you know, an idea for like one little bit. I was like, that's fucking cool. You know what I mean? And then that's plaguing in my mind, and I'm just getting riffing away and that, coming up with different ideas. So we've just stole loads of different influences of metal and just thrown it in the boiling pot we want. We stir it, and then out comes dinosaur metal.
Because even like that riff in Eyes that comes in the that's pretty much influenced by Pig Destroyer.
Totally.
Like it might not sound like it, but it's that.
Wow.
That style, yeah.
You see, when you've done your thrashy parts, I was thinking of like Forbidden. One of the underrated bands for me is Forbidden, especially the album Twisted into Form. And when I listened to like the like Pillars, for example, I was just like, that's Forbidden to me.
Cool. I never like clocked in that. I had the Forbidden. It's a Forbidden Evil, their first album. Yeah. So I had that one. I remember that. It was cool. Like.
Twisted into Form is a brilliant album.
I'll need to listen to it. Like.
Yeah. Right, we're going to talk about gigs now, because now that the world has opened its doors again in a live environment, what plans of gigs do you have for the next 6 months? I already know the answer to this, and I think this is one of the longest stretches of gigs that you've played. Is that right?
And yeah, I mean,
for the rest of the year,
for a long
so far.
time, for a long time, definitely since like 2019, and it's nice to get back out there. But we start in France in 2 days' time, so we play
with Death Awaits.
With Death Awaits, good
They're
guys.
amazing. Like,
who we, I'm sure they mentioned it on one of their kind of advertisement things that they were doing, that we met them in Bannerman's when it was my birthday and it was Halloween. Fuck knows what we were dressed as. I think we were dressed as like Baywatch or something like that. And then, but they weren't even.
But you've got the body for it.
Well, I was honest. I was dressed as Pamela, so the camera were hanging out. And it was my birthday, so I ended up like absolute carnage up in the Bannerman's flat. And they weren't even playing the gig. They were playing a gig the night after, but they were staying over in Bannerman's. They just came down to the gig, and lo and behold, they were staying upstairs as well. So I think maybe they were just getting settled down for a nice, restful night. And then there's about 40 folk came up like, "Hey, be dressed as Pamela Anderson." And then that's kind of hit off from there. We kind of like, they were like, "Oh, cool, you're in a band," and stuff like that.
To be fair, they did actually, they seen us. That was how they kind of got spoken to us. Because like, although they were staying up the stairs, they thought they'll just go down and see what the gig is. And then they were like, we did not expect to see a band like that just randomly on whatever night it was. Like, they just didn't expect it. And I think
it's going to be a major one for you because they're kind of like what, like death core and stuff like that, you know.
So I think they were death before, but they're kind of death slam now. They're doing more of a sort of slam.
So you're going to play
to
a completely different audience.
Well, I mean, everyone's going to be brand new. Like, so we're in France now. I think the last time I've been in France was when I was a parent. You know what I mean? Really young. So I'm just really excited about getting over there. And it's nice.
That's the thing now. You don't get like death metal gigs and it's all death now. You do get a variety. Like Cannibal Corpse, you had Dark Funeral, you had Ingested, and you had Storm Ruler. You know, so I think
it works.
People are more open.
If you've got everything the same, it doesn't matter how good the bands are. People can get a bit jaded. Whereas if you've got at least one band that stands out, I think that's why, like, during the thrash days, Alice in Chains got so huge because they were playing on these, like, also because they're Ace, but it was like thrash bills, and then Alice in Chains would play and just blow everyone away because it was so different.
Yeah.
And I think that as long as it's heavy.
Yeah, totally. So we're starting in France, and that's going to be class. 3 dates in France. Then we are.
Sure, you've got an album launch or something.
Yeah, but we're playing Swindon with Battleborn the week after, and
that's the replacement gig for Manifest.
So that's good to have a gig on that weekend anyway. And it's cool because we're practicing all the new ones as well for the week after, which is the album launch. Yeah, so it's going to be nice to for most.
Where is it? Where and when is it?
It is the 3rd of June at La Belle and Gel in Edinburgh. So you should be there because it's going to be a fucking mad party. It's going to be carnage.
Are you going to be having a drink?
Me, just for you, mate. I'm just going to have a couple of pints for you. But band-wise playing, we've got Big Iron. There's kind of like the hidden band that no one really knows about, but it's got amazing members. No one is blow the whistle.
Sludge, aren't they?
No, I heard some riffs from it on a phone in a pub in Belfast, and that was enough for me to be like, you're getting fucking booked. This is class. So they're playing then Primitive Vices, absolute like solid, amazing band that have got 3 singers. It's just like total cosmic riffage. It's amazing. Then Catalysis, good pals for Dundee, cracking band. They're making waves as well. And then we've got Disposable, who I haven't seen on a stage since February, so it's going to be fucking class to get them on it as well. And their new stuff's banging as well. Plus, hopefully, they bring the puppets because the puppets are class. So. And then after the gig, the funny part is like usually after the gig, it'll just be high fives, but we'll be high fiving whilst we're all walking up to Legends, where we're doing a listening party. So if you came to the gig, you get into the listening party in Legends for free, and I'll be donning the red, beautiful dog tired jacket that the guy made me.
Wow.
He made me for Bloodstock, and I'll put on the razzmatazz mask, and it'll just be carnage, man. So,
to be honest, it's just going to be us in a room full of people telling them to shut up and listen to bits.
It's like a big kitchen. It's like fill up a few. Here we go. It already feels like even people talking about it, and the way I kind of want it to be. It's just like it's an event, you know what I mean? It's like it's a party. Everyone's coming along and just be like, again, having a great time. So
and we've got like
right. So that's cool. That's your album launch then. But like I said, I know that you've got a number of gigs going on later on in the year. So what have you got after your album launch then?
Aye, so we've got a bunch coming, and we've also got a load that we've actually not announced as well. So we've got other gigs coming that aren't in
like
this
the
list.
first half of the year, first half of
yeah.
the year from now, and then
so the list is pretty big anyway, but obviously we're going to be adding to it. I'm going to read straight off of it because I don't remember the gigs off by heart because there's a lot. But yeah, so we've got the album launch obviously in Edinburgh, and then we've got Sheffield on the 8th of July. Trillions in Newcastle on the 9th of July, and then we've got a couple of gigs with Death Awaits, but over here.
Yeah, so they're coming over to us. We're going to be doing.
Yeah, so we're kind of swapping.
So who's the gigs with Death Awaits over here?
So they've got one. The first one will be in Edinburgh, but we aren't able to play it because we're obviously doing the launch, and you don't want to play too close to it. Yeah. And then we've got Ivory Blacks with them in Glasgow, so that is the 15th of December. And then we've got another gig with them in Scotland, which is currently TBC, but we're working on it.
It's in the works, but just getting a lineup kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and that'll be the day after. So we've then got the Hive in Rotherham on the 25th of August, the Metal Monocle in Leicester the 26th of August, and the Tap and Tumbler the 27th of August, which is that Tuck Stock, which has got quite a lot of really good bands on it. It seems to be a pretty stacked lineup, to be honest. I think it's a free gig as well. And it's it's proper hefty. I think that'll be really good.
What's the Tap and Tumbler again?
It's in Nottingham.
I know. That's right. So it is. So what about? I remember talking to you in November and December, and you're talking. You were down in London. So do you have plans to go back down there again?
Sorry, I was just going to say there's another two on here as well. I'll
fire them off.
List them off first. So we've got the 3 Tons on the 23rd of September in Gateshead, and then Krakatoa in Aberdeen, on the 6th of October. Aberdeen. In Krakatoa, it's been a long time. Like last time we played there, it was called the Moorings, I think. So that'll be good to get back to. But yeah, we've got a bunch to add to that, and
there's a bunch to add into the works of that. What's called the Red Tour. I prefer the big bastard Red Riff bandwagon tour, but the Red Tour, sure. But
he's all about the riff, Keith. He's thinking about himself yet again.
I'm fine with that.
But there's more to add to that. There's stuff that's announced, or not announced, stuff that we've been told that's fucking super cool that we can't say anything yet, but will be announced soon. So I expect more dates to be added this year to the Red Tour.
Cool.
Yeah. And we'll hopefully get
talking about London and stuff like that. That's the
covered. You're all over it.
Yeah, but it's good to actually be like, we're doing France, we're touring the UK as much as we possibly can. Just hunting this album and letting folk hear it and hear it live as well, rather than just playing your kind of
see what other doors open for you.
Exactly, yeah, totally, and then see what happens next year as well. So we're just trying to make folk listen to it till they're fucking sick of it.
Well, I've only got 2 questions left, and I thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it.
No, thanks for having us, man.
No, you're talking about playing live. Off the album then, Keith, I'm going to ask you first. What's the song on the set list that you're looking forward to playing live? And then I'm going to ask you that question, Luke.
To be honest, I think my favourite tune to play from the album at the moment is The Wall, just because it's just fucking heavy. Like when it kicks in, drop G sharp or whatever it is, the riff comes in and immediately you just see everyone's face like, oh, like we've played it already because we played it in Dundee recently, and you can see people's faces when you play it, just like that wee change of like, what the fuck is this? Because it kind of does. It sounds a bit different for us. But then the other song that I'm really, really looking forward to playing is Fracture. Because it's like it was quite a difficult one to get together, because the first song on the album, you have to encompass everything that you're doing in the album. You just have to have that feeling of like the first song has to really hit, and it has to involve loads, but also not be massively long or anything. And I think with Fracture, we had a few different iterations of that tune throughout the time, and then the one that we've actually ended up with, I'm just like, fucking yes, that sounds like strapping. And I'm well happy with that, and I'm looking forward to playing that one live.
Cool. Thank you very much for that, Luke. Keith, sorry to insult you there, Luke. So what's your song you want to play live then?
want to play. I mean, I would agree with Keith. Just going on the wall there. If you're playing, I remember playing that at Dundee. I played at Glasgow before, and I remember seeing someone that looked like actually offended at that riff. Like, it's like, that's a good feeling when you're like, fucking that guy's like, oh, I didn't expect that. Fucking hell. But I think we're like jamming Fracture now, and getting it to the point that, like, you know, in 3 days' time we're going to play that song for the first time ever live in France, and then. Sometimes when you're playing a song, every band must do this. They inevitably imagine playing it like at La Belle or Bloodstock or something like that. And I just think Fracture, if we get it right, which I'm sure we will, it'll be intense. You know what I mean? Especially we've got the intro, we've got all the intro lined up, so the intro will just stop, and then it'll just be me and Keith coming in. It would just be ruthless, eh? Like,
yeah, to be fair, from the whole album, like how you're saying imagine and stuff, the one that made me imagine playing on a big stage, like during the day at a festival or something, is the last half of the red verse.
Oh yeah,
all just becomes like, it's like riff soup in the best possible way, and it's that whole ending bit. I would just love to play that live. I think that's going to be great, but I'll be panicking about playing those kicks.
I love the fact that whole end section, Ricky, that end, it's riff soup. It's just madness, right? That was written in one jam. I just like, we kind of came up with it just in that order. We didn't even fucking change the order. We went, well, that's that, done. Next song. And I'm like, and it's at the end of the album, and I think that's probably the closest. I don't know.
Is that the best part of the album for you? I mean, that's actually my best fucking riffs.
No, but I think it's the closest in my eyes, of maybe Keith as well, of what the next album might sound like. And it ends with that. So it's like kind of, I don't know, for me,
the end of one chapter and the opening of another.
Yeah, almost like, it's got that kind of that feeling to it. That was just like, fucking hell, those riffs in Top G are raj.
But since we're talking about the songs that you want to play live, and you're going to be playing with Death Awaits in France, then, because you're not playing for like a like for like or a lighter band, for example, because obviously Death Awaits are very much heavier than you guys, are you tailoring your set to the heavier end of your spectrum?
Well, we cut all the ballads out, so. Man. I mean, Death Awaits are brutally heavy, but we're fucking really heavy in our own way as well. So it's a case of more, rather than, oh shit, we better play the heavy ones. They're all heavy. We're just trying to play new ones, and the reason we're doing that is because they're fun and we want to play them.
We're playing mostly new songs, and I think you always get. Well, we're pretty bad for that. When we make a new album, all the old albums become obsolete to us, and we're like, this is what we're playing now. And you forget that, like, fans are coming to see you that know your songs. You should probably play some of the older songs, but we're like, this is where it is now.
We're releasing the album on the day off the album launch.
So they can listen to it.
They can listen to it.
Cool.
Learn them all, man.
I've got one last question. And it's probably another 40-minute conversation. And as you know, I always end on what instruments you played on the album in the red verse. So, Keith, we shall start off with your good self. What was your drum setup? Did you change anything this time? Did you get a new snare? Did you get a new snare sound? Did you tweak it? Or what did you do?
So I used the same old drum kit that I have used for.
He's lazy, Keith. He's just lazy, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean,
if we have that drum kit in another video, he'll look like a tramp.
I think I already do, man. We had videos in 2011 or something where I was using
that drum kit's almost as old as some of the folk that come to see us live, man.
Definitely. Although I think it's seen better days, because I ended up having to use Jamie's floor tom because mine was making a weird metal clanging noise. So yeah, it's maybe hit the end of its life, but I do like that kit, and it's in all the videos and everything. Although it's quite funny with the new red skin. We've got, like, you've seen it in the video for Isley Divine. We've got the new skin, and it's just total at odds with the kit. Like, the kit's like pink, purple, fading into white, and it's just got this red drum skin. It should definitely be like a matte black kit or something. But I used the same snare that I used on the Electric Abyss. But I like the snare sound already on Electric Abyss, and obviously Jamie's just got better at recording everything. So even with that, he got a better snare sound than with the one we had before.
Yeah,
I really like that snare anyway. It's a Mapex Fat Bob. And I got it a fair few years ago, and I've just been happy with that ever since. There was a point where I was using 13 snares, and I just realised they're just too ringy, just too like high pitched, and like I just prefer a 14. Big fat sound. Happy with that. Still using Iron Cobras, same ones probably. I keep breaking them, to be fair, but like they're bastardized versions of the same ones. And I've used.
Stop hitting the snare so hard, then.
Nah. Yeah, and I've got these Meinl symbols that I got, which are the Dark Custom Classics, and I basically bought them because they looked cool and they were relatively cheap. But they actually ended up they've been really good. I'm not huge on the one of the crashes, but aside from that, they look cool and they sound fucking great, and they're much cheaper to replace than normal cymbals are. Like, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's a similar setup. I didn't really do anything different setup wise or sound wise or anything like that. I didn't really bother with any of the sort of.
Would you like to? Is there anything that you would like to change?
Maybe I'll probably eventually get a new kit. To be honest, I would quite like somebody to come in and set up my cymbals for me because I can't fit them all in. Like, you're trying to put them around your kit, and you're like, how do people fit like 90 around here? But
it's because they only bring they bring all the cymbals when they've got a big enough stage. I can't. But
everyone like I didn't actually use many of the weird cymbals or anything. I kind of just kept it basic. I think I had the two main crashes, and then one of the ones with the holes in it, a ride cymbal and the China, and then obviously you've got your hi-hats, but I didn't have anything like mad but I kind of I always like having the three toms, because I freak out when that tom's missing, which it seems to be at almost every gig we play at. And I get to the point where I do a fill and I just hit thin air in between every single bit.
How do you think you would be sitting behind a Nickel McBrain drum kit?
Yeah, I think I'd quite enjoy it.
Would you get lost?
It sounded good. I'd be like, but I've not changed much. But I might soon. You might see me with a new drum kit or something once I've got some money.
Cool.
You probably won't.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Keith. Look, something tells me you use the exact same guitar, the exact same tuning, the exact same pedals. Everything's the exact same, isn't it? Because you're quite lazy.
Aye, that's the truth. I obviously told you about that horrific SG that the wood was walking. So I was using that, but then that got flung. But I used just my LTD Explorer and used the white one as well for the stuff that was tuned down in G. Went through the Invective.
I like that. See when you saw it on the rack at the beginning of a feast.
Yeah. Totally.
That's a guitar.
But it's a case of so you just use the LTDs. And now after putting Jamie through hell with the G sharp stuff, I decided to get a baritone. So I've got a solar baritone, and honestly, it's fucking banging. It's an amazing guitar for that tuning. But recording wise, I just used the PV Invective because pretty much with the Electric Abyss, I'm sure I told you yonks ago that I borrowed a PV Invective to record the Electric Abyss, and I borrowed Dave Farrell's one, and I just fell in love with it. It's just a fucking ruthless amp. So I just immediately bought one after. Much to my credit card's fucking dismay. You know what I mean? I bought that, so I had that this time, and we just kind of mucked about with sounds. But it's one of those heads that, Jamie was in the new studio, so he had about 8 mics on the cab, just in case. But really, we ended up using 2 because it always sounds class. It's just a melter of an amp. And when it comes to pedals, I'm not into the tap dancing chat. I love making.
You don't have 40 pedals at all or anything like that?
And I've Steve live, and pretty much, unless I was adding an extra guitar, like a melody or something like that, I have a wah pedal that I barely fucking use. I have a tuner and I have a noise suppressor, and that is it. I use a distortion from the amp, and it sounds melting. So I'm happy with that, because as soon as there's more things you put in front of you, there's more things that can go wrong. So there's more things that there could be a connection loose or something like that. I'm trying to minimize how much things can go wrong on stage, so I can just actually have fun and relax and hang in, just playing riffs and having fun. So
yeah. Well, I'm almost crying here because we're at the end of the interview. I'm looking forward to getting the physical product, which I will definitely buy. I'm looking forward to playing a song which we disclosed off air. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys live, and I just love talking to you guys. I always enjoy myself. It's always a great interview, and it's always a good laugh. I don't like you when I meet you face to face.
At least I fucking hate you when I meet
the security here.
It's just this is a better relationship. Just
yeah. Is this you talking about the OnlyFans page again?
Oh, I know that again. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
No, thanks for having us on.
No worries.
Us talking the album first to you makes sense. You know what I mean? It's giving you
you're going to get me crying here, right?
full disclosure, mate.
But as Mark said in the last interview, I still got a hard on for Kieran. I'll still play you in the radio show. We'll do what we can on Moshville Times to promote you guys. You guys definitely deserve promoting. You guys definitely deserve to get bigger than what you already are. And a good sign of that is the amount of listens that you got on YouTube for your first ever song from the new album, The Red Verse. June the 3rd, The Red Verse. Where the fuck can we get it?
The Red Verse. So it'll be in physical copies on June 3rd. It'll also be on Spotify. It'll be on Bandcamp. It'll be on iTunes. All
the usual, basically. Yeah. But I don't know if we're going to plan to do any pre-orders of the album or anything. But we can work.
I think it's just like I think it's with pre-orders of an album. It's you just want to make sure you've got them in your hand before any sort of pre-order stuff.
Well, we're obviously selling them on the night.
Way.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
We're obviously selling them on the night, and I think I've got a feeling like if they look as good as when we got the Electric Abyss on that album, like on the actual cases, it just looked amazing because it had that sort of matte finish and it just looked phenomenal. Yeah. So I'm hoping that the Red Verse has got a similar sort of holy crap, that looks great on this, so that we can like people will want it basically because you'll be like that looks fucking awesome. But at some point down the line, maybe get vinyl. But there's a big waiting list for it just now.
There's about a 10-month wait on vinyl, and it's definitely something that me and Keith have talked loads about because it would just be
it's so back in. It's so back.
It's like a proper work of art, and it's very especially when artists do so much time and effort into that front cover. You'd want to do that. You want to get that, but it does involve that Jamie would have to you have to remix an album a little bit differently if it's on vinyl. Okay. But we will do that, and we'll look at potentially releasing them, but just not for the launch. We'll get it out, and then we'll do that as a pre-order thing that's coming in the future.
Well, the same as Electric Abyss, you signed it for me, so I'll get the Red Verse signed. And we're very much looking forward to seeing you guys in the flesh at a gig. I might say, I need to finish that sentence.
In the flesh.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this interview. I could actually talk to you every week. I love it. I love talking to you guys. So
that's the same, man.
Yeah,
it never feels like an interview.
No, it just feels natural. Just a chat with you. It's class, and it's
What other interview are you allowed to curse and swear and take the mick out of everybody? So
okay, mate.
And have a drink of coffee or tea.
Right. First thing's happening when you walk into the album launch, I will have a pint ready for you.
That sounds like a plan. I'll text you when I'm walking along.
But it won't even be in the venue, it'll be at the door. You can just take your pint and walk in the front door.
Keith, see what I said about him before? I do actually. Just forget about that. Thank you very much for the interview, guys. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.